Thank you guys for tuning in to Spiritual Beauty Ministry. So the word that God's placed upon my spirit is at the last minute, at the last minute. So I'm coming to you guys from the book of Genesis chapter 22, and this is about Abraham being tested, okay? Abraham being tested. So God comes to Abraham and he tells him, I want you to sacrifice your only son, okay, Isaac, whom you love, as a burnt offering, okay, as a burnt offering on a mountain. And he said, I will show you the mountain where I want you to go to. So Abraham is obedient. He gets up, he takes his son, and he goes to the mountain, okay? And right when he was about to sacrifice his son, an angel of the Lord called out to him, Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on that young man, okay? Don't lay a hand on that boy, all right? That is what it's going to look like in your situation. That's right at the minute, right at the last minute, God is going to move through it. Right at the last minute, God is going to move through it. I'm sure that Abraham may have thought this is going to be the ending of my story. This is what, you know how when something looks as what it is and you already write the ending? You already write the ending of what it's going to be. But God wants you to know that he's about to change that story. He is about to change that story. See, right when Abraham was about to sacrifice his only son out of obedience to the Lord, he received a ram in the bush blessing that changed his situation. It says that right when he's about to sacrifice his son, and the angel of the Lord called out to him and said, do not touch him. Then all of a sudden, a ram in the bush came. A ram that was in the bush came in, and he was able to use that ram as a burnt offering for the altar that he was preparing for his son. And his obedience released the blessing. God wants to know that your obedience is going to release the blessing. This story, when I read God's story, it's not literal. You have to hear the message behind it. It's the fact that Abraham was willing to be obedient, even at the cost of losing it. He was willing to be obedient, even at the cost of losing it. You may be willing to be, God needs you to be willing to be obedient in the wait. Even at the cost of maybe you probably didn't get the, where you was like, dang, I could have got that job. Instead, I'm sitting here waiting on God. I could have had that husband, but instead I'm sitting here waiting on God. I could have had this. I could have been here, but instead I'm sitting here waiting on God. But God is saying, because of your obedience, it is going to release to you a great blessing. Okay, because of your obedience. Like I said, that when Abraham was about to sacrifice his son out of obedience to the Lord, he received a ram in the bush blessing that changed his situation. God wants you to know that a ram in the bush blessing is coming. God said that a ram in the bush blessing is coming. Another thing that came to me as I was studying this word, I imagine Abraham walking with his son. And and I can imagine that walk being long. So let's just say that let's say there was 50 steps that was going to take to get to the mountain where God said he wanted Abraham to be for the sacrifice. And let's say Abraham, as he's walking, he's like, well, okay, God, when are you going to start speaking? I'm hoping that you're going to intervene through it, God. And then he keep on walking, taking the steps. And then the steps keep getting closer and closer. Now he's on step 25. Now he's on step 35. And now he's like, God, I still haven't heard you speak. But he's just still walking. He's just still walking. He's still walking to the word that God has called him to do. But God still has not spoken. And so now he's at step 45. And now he's finally at step 50. And then God speaks. God speaks. That's probably what you may feel like. It's like you've been walking and God is not speaking. And you're like, God, when are you going to step in it, God? It's getting worse. God, when are you going to move in it? But it was right at the exact moment of it that God spoke to it. Right at the exact moment of it, God is going to speak to it. That's why I said that at the last minute, you are going to see it. At the last minute, you are going to see it, because right at the last minute, right when Abraham was about to sacrifice his son, the angel of the Lord showed up. God was showing that right at the last minute of that situation, of that circumstance, of whatever it is that you are in need of. God said he's going to show up. He's going to send you a ram in the bush blessing. See, God did not speak before. He spoke right at the time of it. He did not speak before it. So Abraham is just walking. Maybe you probably find you're going to just be walking and God is not speaking. But God says, keep moving because I'm coming. Keep moving because I'm coming and I'm about to change it up. Because it's like what happens is that God wants you to understand is that it's going to come from a different direction. See, the ram in the bush came from a different direction. It's like your situation is about to go into a different direction when God stepped in it. It was supposed to be his son's sacrifice. But then right at the moment of it, all of a sudden God sends a ram. See, God was about to change the situation. God was about to change the direction of that situation. What was supposed to be is now about to change your story. God said that what he's about to send to you is about to change the story that you thought you knew. What he's about to send to you is about to change the story of what you thought you knew. Abraham may have thought that he knew that my son's about to die. But God said that it's not what it looks like. I'm about to send a ram in the bush blessing to you. I am changing how the story was supposed to end. I am stepping in it right at the last minute. I am stepping in it right at the last minute. Another thing too that I see in this story is that right when he's about to sacrifice his son, and the angel of the Lord called and said, Abraham, Abraham, don't you do it. That's what it's going to look like in your situation. When the God steps in, he tells the enemy, okay, that's as far as you go. That's as far as you go. That's as far as you're going to go to it. It's now time you take your hands up off of it. God is telling you, telling the enemy, and telling the devil, oh, that's going against you, that's as far as you're going to go. That's as far as you're going to go in that marriage. That's as far as you're going to go in that child. That's as far as you're going to go in that business. That is as far as you're going to go. God is going to he's going to call out and he's going to send his angels to step in it right at the last minute. And that's as far as it's going to go in that situation. See, you may have thought that this is how it's going to end. But God said, I am changing it. I am changing it at the last minute. You may have thought it was too late. You're like, you can't save this. But God is saying that I am changing this right at the last minute. Right at the last minute when you thought that all things was over. When you thought that it was already the end, God is going to show you his hands. God, like I said, God is telling the devil, he's telling your enemy that that's as far as you go. Get your hands up off of it. Like he told Abraham, he said, do not touch that boy. God is saying, do not touch, do not go, do not do any more that you have done. Your time with it is up. God wants you to know that the enemy's time with your situation is up. Like I said, you thought the deadline, you're like, God, the deadline is approaching. And God wants you to know that he has not forgotten. The deadline is approaching. God said that he has not forgotten. God said he has not forgotten. Like I said, God, you may look at God as getting close and he is not speaking. But God says, stay waiting in obedience because his word is coming. His word is coming. There is a word. Some of you, God has given you a word and all you have is the thing that he has spoken to you, but you haven't heard anything else from it. But God said he wants you to still trust him because he's about to move. He is about to move. God is removing what you thought the story would be. He said, and it is changing. It is changing. And at the last minute, you will see it. It is not going to make sense at the timing when God sends it. It's not going to make sense at the time when God sends it, but it is going to be on time when God gets done with it. You guys be blessed. Until next time, peace.